Hey, what's going on YouTube? So today wanted to do my video about my updated Heisman predictions going into week 5 of the 2015 college football season. So these have, they've changed pretty dramatically since the beginning of the season, as expected. Like, I think last week I can't remember if I did it last week or 2 weeks ago, but I had Derrick Henry as one of the firm favorites, and then they lost to Ole Miss, and Derrick Henry didn't have a fantastic game. So I think that really, obviously when a team like Alabama loses and you're the main guy on the team, then it really hurts your Heisman chances. So here's my updated 5. Doesn't really go in any particular order, except I'd say the number 1's pretty clear cut right now, but pretty much everyone knows that. Start with number 5, Nick Chubb. So Nick Chubb's, I think he just reached his 12th straight 100-yard game last week. He's just pretty much a model of consistency for Georgia. They have a decent amount of weapons, but Nick Chubb is their guy. Sonny Michael is a very solid backup, so is Keith Marshall, and like I keep saying, Georgia might have the deepest stable of running backs in the country, but they will be tested this weekend. So this Alabama game is huge for Georgia, just in multiple ways. It's not just implications for this year, it's implications for Mark Richt's job in the future. He's kind of made a name for himself of having huge preseason hype, huge expectations, and then kind of just melting at the end, choking at some point. So Georgia, again, is in great position to put themselves as SEC title favorites, also favorites to make the college football playoff. And this Alabama game is one of the biggest I think they've had in Athens in quite some time. If they can win this game, then that does vault them into college football playoff contention. I think if Nick Chubb has a big game, then it also vaults him into being one of the top 3 Heisman favorites, not just top 5. So move on to number 4, Trevon Boykin. So really TCU is just relying on him at this point. Now they do have other weapons, Colby Listenby, Josh Doctson, Aaron Green, but it is pretty much all on Trevon Boykin's shoulders. With the amount of injuries on that defense, it's up to him to just put up just insurmountable amount of points against some of these really good Big 12 offenses. They have to go and face Texas this weekend. Now, Texas had 2 really unfortunate special teams miscues 2 weeks in a row. Last week, refs played a little bit of a part in it too. But this week, I think that Texas is going to be clear-cut. All the bad luck's out of the way. I don't think that Texas is going to win the game, but I do think that Gerard Hurtt's going to be able to put up a ton of points against this banged-up TCU defense. Patrick Mahomes showed that even with a banged-up knee, he can still run and be mobile against this TCU defense. So move on to number 3, I have Josh Rosen. So this kid's been pretty inconsistent so far. He had one bad game against BYU, and he's been pretty good since, including the game before that. So I think that Josh Rosen, with how good UCLA is playing, with how good they played against Arizona last week in the limelight, proved that that offense, that team in general is for real. Now, I think the thing that could hurt Josh Rosen, like I said, is his inconsistency. If UCLA ends up going undefeated, Josh Rosen has a decent season, then I think he's going to end up top 5 in Heisman contenders. I do think that one thing that might hurt him is the amount of help he has around him. A lot of people know that UCLA's got a very deep stable of running backs. The defense is pretty good as well. So compared to someone like Trevon Boykin, where it's pretty much all on him, I do think that Josh Rosen does have a little bit of help around him, and that could hurt him, but I do think that he is a Heisman contender in the top 5 for now. So move on to number 2, Cardale Jones. So Cardale Jones hasn't had a fantastic season so far. Right now he's just in it pretty much because he is, I think, the said Ohio State starter. He is also starting to look a lot better for Ohio State. He is starting to get in rhythm. You could see that last week against Western Michigan. The offense ran a lot smoother. And now since they have pretty much everyone back from injury suspension that they had gone for the first few weeks, you can see that Ohio State offense really started to chug along. I think this game against Indiana this weekend is pretty important for them. Indiana's not a terrible team, probably going to be a bowl team. They are 4-0 right now. Not one of the best teams in the Big Ten by any means, but I do think that this is going to be a big test for Ohio State, probably their biggest one so far, including the game against Virginia Tech. It's just going to say a lot about how the offense and defense is doing right now and where they're at. So move on to number 1, Leonard Fournette. So this guy's the clear-cut number 1 Heisman favorite right now. The odds in his favor are ridiculous. He has rushed, I believe, for an average of 218 yards and 2 touchdowns in every game this year. He's just been everything and more for that LSU team. He's been looking unstoppable. see how he looks when they start getting a little bit more of the meat of the SEC West schedule. But he already proved that he can lead the team against Mississippi State in a big win they had in Starkville against a very good Mississippi State team. And I think that for the time being, he's the clear-cut number one, as clear-cut as there has been this year. I do think that he needs to keep it together. If he does want to win the Heisman, then I think LSU has to be less than a 2 or 3. I don't think they can have more than 3 losses, and even 3 is pushing it. I think there's a lot of weight on Leonard Fournette's shoulders, especially with how mediocre Brandon Harris has played so far this year. The defense has looked good, but the offense is definitely on his shoulders. So I think for the time being, as long as LSU is a top 10 team and he's rushing for 200 yards and 2 touchdowns a game, he'll be the clear-cut favorite for the rest of the season. But yeah, that's pretty much it for my Heisman, my updated Heisman predictions, top 5 list. So I will come back next week with my updated list. And yeah, looking forward to a fun weekend in college football. So that's pretty much it. See ya.